Computer games are about killing stuff and about winning. Sometimes you do it for points, or you do it to save the world, but most of the time you just do it to get a bigger gun, or a bigger sword, or a really cool hat. Sometimes in computer games you get to solve a little puzzle, but usually you only do that so you can find a new place where you get to kill things and get more hats, because that's what fun is. And games are about having fun. But what if a game was about different things? What if there was a game that wasn't about fun? That's what art games are. An art game can be loosely understood as any game where the main purpose isn't just entertainment. Action games exist to make us feel excited, horror games make us feel scared, romance and erotica games make us feel... And art games? They make us feel other stuff. It's not a very clear distinction. You can think of it in terms of a general distinction between what we mean when we say art and what we mean when we say design. The word design has an orientation towards making a product. If you're designing a game, that word implies you're making it for someone else, not just yourself. You care about what your audience thinks and wants and needs. You're willing to change what you want to make a little bit in order to better serve that audience. The word art, with a capital A, could be applied to exactly the same object, whether it's a game or a film or a photograph or a piece of music, but the distinction between art and design is about that creator's aims and their concerns, what they care about. If you're creating primarily in order to express something, whether that's an emotion, an idea, or a political perspective, or even just your taste and what you think is beautiful, and you don't care much about the audience, then you're making art with a capital A. This is one of the reasons why people who do play indie games are often so fond of them, and why people have romantic notions about being an indie developer. Sure, you're designing a game, but you're also making something which, compared to other areas of the games industry, is a bit closer to art with a capital A. It's there to express something, even if that something is just that you have better taste in games. But most indie games still care about entertainment, so indie games aren't automatically what we would consider art games. A game becomes an art game when it stops caring about whether the audience is entertained and instead goes after different kinds of emotional responses than just excitement or satisfaction for winning. I say all of this because the game I'm trying to review today appears to be an art game. Who's this? And that makes it hard for me to judge it as a game design expert. Instead, I have to judge it as an art appreciator. I have to stop thinking about whether it's engaging and prioritize thinking about whether it has some kind of emotional impact on me. Does it make me think differently about the world? And if it is difficult to understand, well, that might not be a bad thing in this case. It might just be that the game is forcing me to think in a way I'm not used to, and that might be the whole point of the game. To give some examples that you might be familiar with, Davey Wreden's game The Stanley Parable feels like a game which sits firmly between what we think of as a commercial indie game and an art game. It's an art game because it has something to say, and it draws attention to the artificiality of games in ways a game normally wouldn't do if it was trying to immerse us. But it's still quite light-hearted, funny and entertaining. Even though it fits the criteria for an art game, it seems like its purpose is still to entertain us. Compare it to Wreden's later game, The Beginner's Guide, which is far more somber and contemplative, and which doesn't have a clear, obvious bunch of gamer in-jokes or gotchas in. The Stanley Parable is a piece of entertainment with some characteristics of an art game, but The Beginner's Guide is pure art game. I never found it entertaining or amusing in the slightest. I personally don't find this kind of question about putting things in categories very interesting, but for the purpose of this video and this review, they're important to think about because I'm here as a game designer and not as an art critic, and the game we're about to look at isn't aiming to do the same set of things which most indie games set out to do. So this is a game, it's a little Godot engine game. I don't know much about Godot. It seems to be the new one that everyone's learning, whether it's just because it's a new engine and it interests people because of that, or it's because, you know, they specifically don't like Unity or Unreal, but let's just check it out and see what it's all about. Who's this? It's a eyeball flower that follows me when I move around it. Hey, it's been a while. How have you been? As you already know, you use the arrow keys to move, the spacebar to interact with things, the shift key to speed up. So now that you know, here's my quest. Yeah, you have to do quests now. Cool, right? There's a lot of missing punctuation here. I don't know if it's a language thing, but kind of makes it hard to read or kind of tell where the character would be stopping. The sentences are overlong. Anyway, my quest is that I follow you to the door. I like that. Spooky, floaty, weird movement. I think when you've got these kind of text boxes, it's a good idea to limit it to a short sentence per text box. If you have these kind of long text boxes that have multiple sentences in and it's not clear where one starts and the next begins, it can be a bit confusing. I'm sorry, please. Please, you can't keep doing this. You need to face him. You need to face him. You can't run away from him, remember?
He's a part of you, a part of you, a part of you.
He's a part of you. Okay. Maybe he is. I'm sorry. Why am I even trying? So, just needs a bit more proofreading. Some of these sentences are a little bit hard to pass because of those. Oh. It's the Truman Show. I don't really know what to make of this. It kind of doesn't go anywhere in terms of the narrative. It feels like it's building up to something. Look at that lovely seam in the skybox. We're made to feel anxious about the coming of this character that is a bad person or that we're supposed to fear, but we're being told that we need to confront. It's okay, I can hold him, you go now. They're still talking about this him, whoever it is. Probably the alternative rock band that were briefly famous in the early 2000s. Just don't know where it's going, or it feels like it's going somewhere and it doesn't get there. The version I played, I got to this black room and it didn't continue. It feels very anticlimactic for it to finish there. The game is charming. I think there is some attempt to make these characters in the world feel different from each other in terms of how they talk to you. Like how that dialogue is written. It feels a little bit Undertale-y. Very dreamlike and weird. Fix me. Put my back together. They're doing the partial swearing. Doing a little puzzle mini game. This background is hard to notice because it's the same colour as the level. Thank you, I don't even know what got me to this state. Ah. The way that this turns is particularly creepy because of the angle it's drawn at. It looks like it's going to be a 3D object and it's just not. And it's very unsettling. Can I just not talk to you? Can I just... Oh. Was that supposed to happen? I just didn't talk to the TV person, sorry. That you let me not talk to them and they were creepy, so I exercised my agency as a player. Who's this? Who are you? Oh hey, long time no see. I wonder what you've been doing that was so important. You wouldn't even listen this time. So here is my quest. I want you to find Hate. He's hiding in the bushes. Find him and bring him to me. When you finished the dialogue, the character suddenly... It felt like they were getting all up in my grill. Okay, so we've got a hide and seek. Each of these rooms is its own little mini game. I find that quite charming. I didn't like the puzzle one. The puzzle one had the same issue I had with Sphero in the last video, where it felt like, oh, I've done a learning project, now play my learning project. And it's like, well, it's not inherently satisfying to put together a 5-piece puzzle when you're nearly 40 years old, unfortunately. Is that me interacting with the bushes? I'm shaking the bush to try and find Hate. I'm not sure I even want to find someone called Hate. Ah! You're an upside down heart that looks mildly suggestive. You can't talk to me. Quite cute, though. You're an inverted heart, and that's why you're Hate. It'd be terrible to be given that name, wouldn't it? If your parents were like, oh, Let's call the baby Hate. So now that he's gone, now I need you to listen. Again, the lack of punctuation makes this really hard to read. I'm having to guess. You need to stop ignoring the fact that it is part of you. He's so big and so scary. I know you are scared and confused, but you can't keep living like this. I'm not going to hold him like you made the others hold him. It is your responsibility. I know you're going to repeat coming here over and over and over. Just don't expect me to welcome you or to hold him while you're here. And I won't even stop him if he tries to get me. I'm so done with you. All of us are. You need to grow up and get yourself together. Why am I even trying? Next time, don't talk to me, please. I don't want to see you until you take actions against him. You've already reached this room. You know what that means. Think about what you did. All those innocent lives you just gave up. That is very creepy, those eyes. I'll give you that. Oh, I'm in the same room again, but it's completely pitch black and I've got to get to the door. So you can just make out the bushes are still here. It's very unsettling. I am sufficiently creeped out by that room. Could kind of guess what this game was getting at, but it didn't end in a way that ramped everything up to a conclusion. And I think the overall eerie sense that the game gave me was a good use of some of the limitations that the developers had in terms of what they could do with code and art. If this game has some sort of overall goal of what it's trying to evoke or make players think about, it didn't feel like there was enough clarity for anyone to come away from this with a take on what it was about. That makes it even harder for me to judge and to say, oh, this art game is doing a good job of this or that, because I fundamentally don't know. Just from playing the game alone, can't really tell what it was trying to do to me emotionally or whatever, apart from create this menacing sense of kind of internal conflict of, yeah, you need to integrate this scary thing into whatever you've got going on. And this just felt like it was a repetition of the same thing several times with some goofy little mini games, which is, you know, charming enough in its own right, but it didn't really get anywhere. Had to turn my headphones down that time.
Oh, it's you again, almighty sir, running from responsibility. If it wasn't for those goddamn quests, we all would have been fine. I just keep wondering why do you even come here? Anyway, get me the pink flowers. Don't you dare get me those ugly blue ones. I can't be seen with such ugly flowers. Okay, you get some blue ones. Are you dumb? I said the pink ones. Only. Why are you so dumb? I hate you. Hey, come on, picking those things isn't exactly making you look good. Get a grip and pick a pink one already. This isn't rocket science. Fine, have it your way, but don't come crying to me when things get weird. You wouldn't listen, so you get what you deserve. All of the characters are admonishing me in some way. They have slightly different voices in terms of how they're written, but they are all serving the same purpose, which is to tell me to do something and then... Listen here, you dumb swear word. You know I hate your guts so bad, but I can't do that because you push me away like the others. I can't be seen with them disgusting creatures. You need to face him. It's your damn responsibility. Everyone around here does their job but you. You're the only one slacking around running from yourself. It's getting a bit repetitive now. Like, I need to face someone. Everyone's telling me to face them. After that, you got abandoned, abused, bullied, outcast. I saved you in that moment. I made you more presentable to society. What do you do after that? You just unleashed that horrifying thing at us and you pretend he doesn't even exist. Wait, what the hell? I think this character is supposed to be Beauty. I don't know what the R stands for. There's lots of cryptic naming with just people are letters. What the hell? Go grab me my bloomin' flowers and get out of here. I'll just get you your flowers. I think, yeah, maybe this is the Beauty character. I don't know. Maybe there's something going on with gender with the pink and blue. I really don't understand the symbolism here, and that's okay. I don't think I need to understand all of it to just get a sense of what the vibe is. I think it is emotionally effective in the way that it does feel really ominous that everyone is saying, oh, this bad person's coming and it's your fault and you needed to do something about it. But it is getting repetitive now, and I don't know what the distinction between these characters is. Finally, now get the heck out of here or I'll get you before he does. Which I hope he does. Remember, he is a part of you.
Okay. He's a part of me. Who's in here? It's going to be painfully loud music again. No? Is that it? I can't really understand what it's trying to do. I think I get the gist of it, that we are inside a character's mind or something. But part of the problem with that is, hey, there's already a big movie called Inside that already does a lot of what this is trying to do, of being inside a character's head and having characters within that represent different feelings or perspectives or whatever. The thing that makes the movie Inside work is that you see the outside, and the stuff that is inside the character's mind is shown to you how it's being processed. You see what happens in the character's life, and then you zoom into their mind and you see how it's processed. The problem here is we're totally trapped inside whatever we're in, and we can't see what any of this stuff refers to. So it does create this sort of playful but ominous, dreamy sense, being in this dreamlike space, but there isn't really anything we can do to decode what it's supposed to be referring to. I think the stories in media that do this kind of surrealistic, dreamy stuff very well, they just give the audience a little bit more to work with in terms of being able to put that puzzle together. So to give a couple of examples from film that would be relevant here, a lot of psychological, dreamlike films, they give us clues about what is going on in the character's real life so that we can decode the dreamy part. A recent example of this is the film Beau is Afraid.
I am so sorry for what your daddy passed down to you.
In that film, it's dreamy, it's weird, you are seeing the world through a character's sort of subjective, maybe not mentally well point of view, but you get enough clues about their real life to be able to understand why they are experiencing whatever it is they're experiencing that is very strange.
I'm visiting my mother tomorrow.
You know, another filmmaker that is brought up a lot in these type of conversations is David Lynch, and you can contrast two of David Lynch's films to get a sense of what I'm talking about. In one of his very early films, I think it might be his first film, Eraserhead, all we get in Eraserhead is a surreal, dreamlike space and narrative, a lot like what this game is trying to do. And that dream, that surreal story that we get shown in Eraserhead makes very little sense unless you know what it's about from outside the film. If you know about what was going on in David Lynch's life, you can sort of decode this. Whereas if you look at one of his later films, Mulholland Drive, which is often talked about as being one of the more accessible David Lynch films,
I can't believe it.
what you get in that film is you get this kind of weird dreamlike stuff, but you get that alongside details from the character's real life, and that turns it into a kind of puzzle where you're able to look at the weird dreamy stuff and decode it by relating it to what's going on with this character as a real person in their day-to-day life. That creates a artwork that is really satisfying to digest, because it has clues within it to what is happening with this kind of surreal psychology. To use the example of the film Inside, which is a kid's film, a family film, that's doing something slightly different. That is using characters to explain an actual model from psychology.
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
Called the self-memory system. It refers to the way that our sense of who we are is made up of our memories. So someone who is a very confident person is basically someone who has easier access to memories which make them feel confident. And that is what is portrayed in Inside Out. That's what makes that an interesting all-ages film, because the kids can watch it and just be like, I'm learning about emotions and I'm relating to this little girl. Parents can watch it and go, oh, this is actually a very interesting film about how people's minds work and how people build their sense of self through experiencing and remembering things. And it is the relationship between the outside thing and the inside thing that makes it interesting and makes it something that an audience can relate to. What we're getting in this game here, it's like someone telling you their dream, but you don't know this person. So that there's no reference point outside of the dream to go, oh, well, I think actually you dreamed about being in a maze and being chased by a minotaur because
I'm visiting my mother tomorrow.
That's the kind of conversation around dreams that is interesting, is when you can try and decode them in relation to what this person is thinking and feeling. The problem in this game, I don't have anything to try and anchor this dream onto to try and work out what it means. I can guess. And this character I'm playing as is having some bad feelings about an aspect of their personality or something they did. They're feeling guilt. Maybe it is going into something that psychotherapists talk about, which is called integration. It feels like it's leaning into that direction. So basically the idea that there is a part of your psychology, a part of your mind that you struggle with, that you don't like, and you push it away, and that causes problems for you. And through therapy and through talking to someone, you're going to integrate that part of yourself, and you're going to become a kind of more well-rounded, emotionally balanced person by doing that. And it feels like that's what this game is trying to get at, is that the character, whoever that is struggling with this aspect of themselves that they need to try to integrate. But because there are so few reference points, well, there are no reference points for what the person's life is outside of this dreamlike space, there's nothing there for us to really decode. We can make random guesses, but there's no sense that, oh yeah, I see how these things link together, right? When you think of those surreal films like Beau is Afraid or Mulholland Drive, the pleasure for the audience comes in having this dreamlike experience, but also having the tools there to be able to decode it in some way. Often when we talk about games and game design, we say the thing that makes games special is their interactivity. But I think one of the things to bear in mind about media that existed before video games, like films and books, is that solving a mystery as you process a story is a form of interactivity that we've been doing for 100, 200 years. When people were reading Sherlock Holmes novels, they were reading along, and some of them would have been trying to solve the mystery as they went. And this is one of the most important forms of interactivity we have, is giving people a puzzle that isn't clicking things and dragging them around the screen and putting them into place. It's a set of events or a set of cause and effects within a story, and being able to put them together to come to a satisfying conclusion. At the moment, this is a surreal little game that is quite evocative, and it does make me feel stuff, but it doesn't give me enough clues to be able to put anything together in a satisfying way. That's fine, because it's an art game, and fundamentally it doesn't have to do anything you don't want it to do. But I think if I judge the game based on what it seems to be trying to do, look into a character's psychological state, then the stories I can think of that do that really well have done it by relating the inside to the outside, and not just, throwing me into a nonsense dream where I don't know what anything means and have no way of navigating my way through that. When you are working on work that is focused very much around telling a story and creating a mood, it's very good to think about the end point first and plot out everything leading up to that, because that's how you create something that is narratively satisfying. M. Night Shyamalan, when he's making his films like Shutter Island or The Sixth Sense, which have a big twist at the end, I'm almost certain that the twist is written first, right? The payoff for watching this confusing narrative up to this point, whether you worked it out or whether you didn't and it just hits you at the last minute. Maybe this game does know where it's going and it's just not implemented yet, but I didn't get a strong sense of that from what I played. You have to know where you're going in order to take people there.